Hello and welcome, and today is Tuesday, Crypto Day, 15th day of May 2018. I'd like to welcome you to the Money Charts channel, talking about cryptocurrencies, trading, and all of that fun stuff. If you've been trading in markets, if you've been watching cryptocurrency markets anyway, it's not a surprise if you've ever seen charts moving at times, something like this, and they just go straight up. But you know that when it's done going straight up, whether it's bullish or bearish, you're very rarely ever going to have something where it just goes sideways and the gains hold. That's just not going to happen. Rather, when you get to these points, it's either going to keep going up, or you're at some point you're going to get some retracements that come into place. As I draw the chart like this, some key things of worth noting. In failed attempts, it is very normal after you hit a high that you retest the previous level with a decent rally, but usually a lower high to the previous one. Sometimes it'll go close to it, and then the break of support usually has decent legs lower. That's worth noting as well. And when you happen to be live playing the market when it's going up, or you have your sell orders in place and you manage them thereafter such, one thing about thinking about is, how can I maximize the gains on the way up, thus you don't lose out on good profits as it's moving higher, but maximize major potential gains so that you can take advantage of greater than 10x moves, especially for codes you forecast to have 30, 50 to 100x moves. Now, assuming that you had good buy positions, let's just assume you bought, say, you have 1 Bitcoin worth of a code before it broke out. So now you're in here, you're like, oh my goodness, this is way high. It's up like 25%. I got 1.25 worth of a Bitcoin of this code. One small easy strategy of doing is sell the most you can that keeps this number noticeably above 1, maybe 1.05, and sell 0.2 worth, or 1.1 and sell 0.15 worth. Okay, let's just assume you did that. So you sold it down to 1.15, so 0.1 sold. And then in here, you notice it's worth 1.4 or something. Another great sell opportunity. Now, what you might be saying to yourself, man, I wish I didn't sell before. Nope, that's fine. Because you never know when it's going to top. So 1.4, maybe last time you kept it back down to 1.15. Now I'm going to bring this to 1.25 and sell 0.15 worth. So now I've got a quarter of a Bitcoin, and we'll call it cash. And then it comes up to this high again. You're like, I got to sell again. It was worth 1.25. Now it's worth 1.7. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to maybe make this worth 1.4 and sell 0.3. And now I have sold that of a little over half. So when the markets come back down, even in here, if you bought it all back in here, you just waited like, heck, man, maybe I could just buy it all back here. That's great. But even if it was in here, you're like, okay, well, this transaction that I unloaded here, I now can get back, and I sold 0.3 worth. If I buy 0.3 worth, I'm going to get a decent amount more. I could even buy, say, 0.275 worth and keep the 25 quarter remainder and still pick up more of these coins than I did before. So just wanted to share some insights and ideas, because no matter what happens, when these markets go up, they're always going to have a retracement. Now, granted, when it has something like this, it's not going to do this, because if it's good, maybe you'll come up here, but you would bottom maybe here, and instead of a down move, maybe something like that would occur. And when I switch this over to XBY, I wish I would have watched that video before, because yesterday I sold too little, which is the reason why I'm making this video today. I knew better. Because as this was moving higher, XBY breaking below 700 to 900, what I had realized by watching the actual order book is there was a 900 bid, the highest it ever got up to. And I was thinking, if there's ever a time to make a sale, it's now. So what did I end up selling? About 3% of my portfolio. Yeah, I buy it at like an average of like 526, and I'm selling 3% at 900. A little bit of problem there for me. This is what I stated myself. That's just fine, because had I, of course, sold 3 to 4 times more, maybe 10%, 12%, then I would have had 4 times better gain, because I would have bought that same equivalency back when I bought back, of course, down in here. So just good to have an understanding, because the more you can take advantage of these wild moves, the better it is. Now let's talk about buying on the moves up here. Was it smart to buy up here? One might say long term, yes. And I say that because they know, okay, I don't mind the move going lower, but I see this thing going to its previous high, maybe even breaking it, and its previous high was about 5,000. And definitely, even if you expect it to go to 1,500 or 3,000, you're happy with that sale. That's obviously a good buy. But was it? Because you could have got that buy back a little bit later. However, to me, there's only 2 reasons in which it's a good buy. Number one is within the first one that I stated. Maybe you needed this type of early confirmation to realize this thing should get going soon, and you don't mind the early short-term losses. The risk, of course, is if you're wrong, you're going to be buying at when you look back at one of the higher prices, that's just going to give you big losses if it's wrong. And the second one is if you know at this time that buyers are going to be coming in because of whatever research tools you have, whether you just know personally that John Doe is going to be buying 3 Bitcoin worth, or just some sort of big load coming in, where when we look at, say, let's go to the normal charts, the trading view, and show you the example. And I'll go back to ZEC, which was also shown in the 4-minute morning today. If you knew at the 317, 318 handle that more buyers were coming in, if you knew that the information, I heard that in an exchange, Gemini, I think, is going to be adding this code. If you knew all these types of things, you're like, man, this thing is just going to pump. It's going to pump for maybe a day or 2 or 3. And you don't care that, say, like say the 322, 327 handle, that it's already had a great leg above the 10th highs from the 10th. Is that, I mean, there's a lot of different ones out there, but even getting just to this point, it's to have a move where you get past 1, 2, 3, 4 highs like that, and you still think it's time to buy. Most of the time the answer is no, it's not. But this is one of the most of the time. So unless you know something now is worth that's going to be a super pump, that's another way of putting it. It's going to do a lot better than a lot of the other overextended markets will do. Then it becomes a good short-term buy. I've already covered this on the 4-minute morning, and I'm done with this. I'm done with XBY. I just wanted to go over trading strategies, because it doesn't really matter if you're in those codes or not. The information, I think, is still very, very valuable. This is the 15-minute time frame with a whole bunch of periods for Bitcoin. And it's all stuck in that range that I talk about of I gotta make a decision. It's either going to be yes or no, sort of like a marriage proposal. Now, normally with marriage proposals, you get your answer relatively quickly, but this is a waiting game. We don't know if it's a yes or if it's a no. So we look at this rally. The market has been able to hold an okay amount. Notice the irony of this move here. Failed breakout, barely getting above. Big green candle up. Decent red down, which is normal on a bullish level. 3 holding it sideways. It made its decision in this case, no, for the shorter term, of course. And then you have 5 red candles lower, going from 88 to 86. But while it made it to 86, it established a higher low from the big break lows, even though it made a lower low to the break of support. Since that, we have one more low hit twice, a little higher, and then another low hit a little higher again, and now this current one on this period. This is a 15-minute time frame, so it just happened. Has broken below, but it has already quickly recaptured those gains. I look at this. This usually tells me that it's going to that things are just going to pick up. Because this is signs that if this thing is unable to do well here and make a move soon above 87.90, then we're really looking at the rollover down situation, testing and breaking this low and probably coming back down maybe to 84 to 80, somewhere in the 84.40 to 8500 range. But a move of this nature with the low in here, lows not seen in 30 or so periods, and then in the same one it makes a high not seen in about 7. That's a statement. So that's why I say something's going to pick up, and either it's going to rally from this point, get above, get up to where it would be 88.30, which would be this level of resistance, this congestion area, and then probably at least get up to the previous high in here, and then most likely even go higher than that again, with higher highs and higher lows on this time frame. But again, because we got the stages of the rollover, let's take a look at this on the 1 minute time frame, because this happened in 1 minute. Let's just check this out on Coinbase and some other exchanges. See, it only happened on this one exchange, really. It's a one exchange move. So Coinbase didn't have it happen. So we look at this one on the 15-minute time frame. You can still say here it's making those higher lows with this last move, but it's now showing weakness within this 18 average, because the second last period that went to the lows, broke below it, and then came back to close at the lows. What's it done so far during these 8 minutes? It hasn't gotten above the 18 lows. It came down close to this area here. So when I'm seeing this on this time frame, I'm expecting this to go down a little bit. But of course, the market's always going to do what it's going to do. So therefore, let's move this on to some other codes. And for now, let's just go super turbo fast, look at codes really quickly. So we're going to start off with ArtByte, which is had this long sideways consolidation, doing the same thing again. Same point on the yes or no questions. Got to make a decision. I don't think, unless it keeps its low volatility, it's going to do too well if it comes back to previous support at 83, thus meaning could have a decent leg lower. But it's already established good resistance at about 116. ADA had a resistance level at previous point at the 38. The next line isn't drawn in, but it's pretty much around the 5,000 area. And it's now within this 18 average consensus down move on May the 11th. It's had 3 days and change, just congesting those losses, still unsure how it's going to be. But when I look at markets overextended to the downside, when it was 3,078 on the way down on May the 11th, it was overextended down. At this case, it is not at the exact same price. I wouldn't be surprised either way from this point if it has a quick move lower, thus continuing the bear market, or if it could even come in and test the 18 average. But I would expect the 18 average of highs to be a level of resistance if it manages to get up to that point. ADT showing resistance within the 18 average as well after this down move. So big decision point, because you've established this low on a bullish level. Nothing wrong with coming down 61.8% and getting out a little bit of the week here. But if you can correct 61.8%, see that these levels hold, and then you can find further momentum from that point on, then maybe you could give stuff like this a shot. And of course, if you're looking to just buy something low compared to where it was and just entering into a position, I don't think this is a bad idea to open one and something like this and then buy low, sell high. If you know fundamentals, I have no idea. If the fundamentals are good, I'd recommend it. If they're shitty or they're bad, I wouldn't recommend it. Alrighty, so AMP, we see just a lot of volatility within the last little while, choppiness to say the least. Not volatility, because it's all volatile as it is. It's been grinding lower since its top on April the 21st, but it's had a long amount of support within this 2,700 level. It's been holding it like a very thin right now, so if this level gives in, you could probably assume it's going to have a decent leg lower. Ardor, which is just like the ADT resisting the 18 average, so same thing. Within such, if it can hold it, it would make it so that things don't look quite as bearish, getting a little more neutral. ARC is having a situation where it got above this level and now it's at a key interesting point. Can it hold this level? Even if it doesn't hold the 18 average of highs, that's fine, but maybe make a move into the 18 average of lows that is higher than this, meaning give it a few days, let it the 18 average lows rise to like 375. That'd be an area I'd be looking as something for support, but I wouldn't want that to happen for a couple of days or so. And getting out above this, so if you look at this, say on a shorter term time frame like the 60-minute, you've had this big move higher. You could easily correct another leg lower. There's nothing stating that that can't be the case, but you might not either. So one thing of note is calculate Fibonacci from here to here. If you see right around the 44-ish area, 45, that sellers are not coming in there, you can see it holding, staying above there. That may not be a bad time to think, okay, this is probably looking to have a nice little rally relatively soon. Bitcoin Cash, it had its huge move. So when I talked on the outset, the start of this video about selling these big pumps and stuff like that, this is a situation where long term you just let the course play through, because let's just assume you've been buying all these moves down pretty much throughout all of 2018. You've had vast majority of buy orders for that of sell orders, because the only selling you had this year was at the start of the year when it got up here, maybe a little bit at this peak in here, but there hasn't really been any sell order spots. So now that all took place. So this situation here, when I talk about selling amount here and here and here, you could have had 6-7 sell orders and not a buyback, which is fine. And then you have it set so that you sold up here because you maybe sold like 8 times, so you should have gotten near this high if you sold that many times. You're able to get one of those sell orders back and maybe execute another sell order, execute another buy order. And as the market is playing, if you're looking for buy orders, it's looking relatively promising that this thing might roll over and maybe come down and maybe test this level of support at about the 0.12 or the 120 handle. Why do I say that? Well, first off, we talk about the classic pattern. You break above this resistance like we see in here. You stay above, you hold above it for like 3-4 periods, then you come back down, and now we're starting to see the weakness that one would have on the rollover. You come down to the 18 lows for the first time, you rally back up to the highs, you congest or you consolidate that move, but after the consolidation move, it comes back down, right back to the 18 lows, and so far through the day, it has just stayed within that lower level. It looks like over this next week, this price has a decent chance. Now, again, this market is in a bullish situation. As long as it's holding it, you can still give the benefit of the doubt to the buyers, but it does look like buyer beware. When we look at it on a shorter term time frame, like the 400 minute, we can see, it's supporting this level, but it's been doing so for quite some time. 18 average is starting to roll over. And one thing you might want to wait for is a break of some of these key support levels. But if you're doing so, you got to go at least below a break below 15. But I would be expecting there's a better chance that we have a move, say, down to like, say, 130, which is a loss of, say, 30 points. That would be about 20% down. Then there would be of a 20% gain from here on in as the next move. Of course, do what you want to do. Me, I don't care what the market does, because if it goes higher, I'm just going to have sell orders placed. And if it goes lower, I'm going to fill in a lot of these sell orders that I've already been placing as it was going higher. Let's move on. Let's move on to BNT. It's having a nice move, just hanging in there along a level of previous support, or is now resistance. It's I don't know if it's tough to call, because this thing could easily have a decent leg lower if it goes down. But if this thing breaks higher, there's some big moves. But notice these little cattails. If you can have sell orders in here and buy orders down there, you're doing pretty good. And even the small ones that you notice. This is the Binance exchange. Let's move on to cannabis, CANN. And there's the gain higher, but it has been retracing lower. This is down quite a bit still from this high. You're at a big soon, just like Bitcoin. It's got to make its decision soon, because it had its long decline throughout the whole year. 4 months straight going down without really much of a shot at breaking it every single time, and there was only 3 of them that had tried to produce any type of movement. It got rejected so fast, with the first one being the stamp of January 24th, where it rallied hard and it sold off fast. And then you had it again on February the 6th, but it still only managed to come to the 18 average of highs. And then after showing weakness here within the 18 lows, it falls lower. And then a big pump here, and it continues to go down. And this one here has been the best rally, because at least in this example, it spent well more than a half a dozen periods holding and staying completely above the 18 average of highs. But then as the market corrected through time, it developed a level of support at about 645. And notice what happened when it broke it. 1, 2, 3 consecutive red candles down, 2 okay sized, and it has just sideways moved that move lower since then. So overall, if this rally is real that has occurred from April, it's going to eventually get above it and then have some probably decent moves, at least getting north of 1200. But if it's not, failed move, fast move, then you're eventually going to have a play down to the support where you have no idea how well 450 is going to hold, because it could, the 2 scenarios that I see when this thing is just going to be a failed move, fast move lower, is it's going to make its move to 450 either by grinding its way lower or doing it quickly. And then from there, it's either going to be support where it'll just continue to go sideways and support and resist it, or have a half-assed rally and come back down lower and go through, or have no support at all. And in this case, probably come and test some of these 2017 lows. That is in the area of the 300s. Cloak. I sold some earlier today because it went up and it was lower, but it's congesting big time within this line. This is where I got to go longer term. Okay, I moved it a bit. A big deal. It's in the right area. Lots of volatility, choppiness, which is perfect for the strategy of buying low, selling high. Long term, it's been making several higher lows. And there's not many codes I play with low volume. Obviously, cannabis was one. There's a reason why I play this. It's really fun to trade. Crown is another one, and it's been giving me some sell orders recently too, as it had a big pump yesterday. Holding its gain thus far, 400-minute time frame, and I'm not going to get through most of these. It's getting close to, I'm going to end this video soon. Probably do a part 2 later on. So we'll finish it with Civic. But yeah, supporting where it came from. If it's successful with this move, then we're probably going to see a play back, at least in this previous congested area, up close to 20 at least. But if not, I've seen these failed moves happen so many times before. You'll be lucky if the bottom is at 13.4 and has a successful price correction, like a 61.8 or even 70+% from this low and this high. Finally, Civic, which we'll take a look at this first on a daily chart. Having an interesting run within this 4,000 support level. Still just hanging in there, going sideways. If you're waiting for the play of either the break below or high, you're right in the middle of this range. But when you look at the volatility from a long-term perspective, if you started entering this when this came in at 9,200, you're winning right now, long-term. You've won. You're already profiting. Even though if you bought at this point and have done nothing, your portfolio priced in Bitcoin has been cut in half. Because when this original rally happened in August, you were able to buy it all back. Even those little small moves in here. Like when, yeah, like this here. It comes down to like 72. And then in here, you don't know when this thing is on September the 10th. You don't know if this break above the 18 highs is real or not. Nor do you need to care. Just have your sell orders in. And in this case, selling here meant that you're able to buy back. A lot of buying down here. And then you sell. Notice what happens on this day, Christmas Day. All the sell orders that come in, instantly getting your buyback. But just think about the situation of you're not even near a computer, or if you are near a computer, you're definitely not near the trading site. You had your sell orders in. You had one in for, say, coming into the day. Maybe you left on Christmas Eve, it was 57.55. You had a sell order in at, say, 65, 78, 94, 11,800, 13.9, 16.2. Of course, all these other ones don't get hit. Maybe even had 20 to 30 other sell orders. So a chunk of them, a decent amount of them got hit. So when you come back and you see the next day that it's 64, well, every sell order you had from like 8,600 above, you can buy back. And then when you do buy at the 64, oh, it's up to 86, let's sell some more. And then it goes back 2 days later, you can get a buyback. But you can see just continuously doing that type of strategy. Here's a spot where you've been buying all the way through at the end of January, into February. But you have the bottom come in close to under 4,000. And then it rallies up to 67. So an opportunity to sell more. Markets go down, same thing. And there we have the opportunity to sell at the start of last month. And that's where we stand today. So then, thank you for tuning in to another half-hour video. There'll be another one later today, but don't expect it for several hours. Unless, of course, something amazing happens and I actually still feel like doing it. Which could happen. But it might not. Thank you for tuning in and have yourself a great day. Bye-bye.